We are in Dallas, Texas, checking out some sites of the JFK assassination. You're watching Hollywood for Ugly People. Let's do this. Hey everybody, it's your old pal Dean coming at you from the Texas School Book Depository. We're going to go visit a couple sites affiliated with the JFK assassination as well as Lee Harvey Oswald. We're just going to try to fill in some blanks. We're not going to really delve into history or conspiracy theories, but we're just going to kind of document some of these sites. Never been here before, so let's see what we find.
The weather couldn't be better. We have a brilliant sun at this moment, and here comes the president now. In fact, he's not in his limousine. He's departed the limousine, and he is walking. He is reaching across the fence, shaking hands with many of the people who have come here to see him. He is closely accompanied by Dallas Police Officers and, of course, the Secret Service. He is now shaking hands, and they are walking along the line of the fence, shaking hands with some of the hundreds of people who have come here to view their arrival. And now the President and First Lady are retreating from the fence. They're heading now for the official limousine where Governor Connolly stands, waiting their arrival so that they can make their way downtown and out to the Trade Mart.
This is WFAA TV in Dallas, Texas. May I have your name, please, sir?
My name is Abraham Zapruder.
Mr. Zapruder?
Zapruder, yes, sir.
Zapruder. And would you tell us your story, please, sir?
I got out in, about a half hour earlier and getting a good spot to shoot some pictures. And I found a spot, one of these concrete blocks that I have down near that park near the underpass. And I got on top there. There was another girl from my office. She was right behind me. And as I was shooting, as the president was coming down from Houston Street making his turn, it was about halfway down there, I heard a shot. And he slumped to the side like this. Then I heard another shot or two. I couldn't say what it was, one or two. And I saw his head practically open up, all blood and everything. And I kept on shooting. That's about all. I'm just sick again.
I think that pretty well expresses the entire feelings of the whole world.
So when you think about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, November 22nd, 1963, one of the things you might think about is Dealey Plaza, maybe Parkland Hospital. You might even think about the movies, all the history, the lore, the conspiracy theories. But a lot of what you might think about, what you might know about the assassination, might have come from some videos that you've seen. One in particular being this known as the Zapruder film. Now, Abraham Zapruder was a Ukrainian immigrant, emigrated to the United States, and was a dressmaker in downtown Dallas. And he was a longtime admirer of JFK. JFK planned to visit Dallas. Zapruder wanted to go and see him and film him, but it had been raining that morning. Eventually the rain stopped, and he had a particular video camera that he decided to leave at home because the weather was bad. So once his secretary found out that he had left the camera at home, she very quickly fussed at him and basically told him, listen, the president doesn't visit Dallas very often. Convinced him to go home and actually retrieve his camera. And that's the footage, probably the most complete footage of the assassination that was used by three-letter agencies, newspapers. It's been used over and over again in film. And yesterday we happened to see a repro of the video camera. The original is in archives, but we pretty much owe the most complete and accurate video of the assassination to Abraham Zapruder, who in 1970 died of, I believe, stomach cancer. And here he is, buried next to beloved wife and mother Lillian Grossman, September 1st, 1913 to December 11th, 1993. Abraham himself, born May 15th, 1905, died August 30th, 1970. Now we're at Temple Emmanuel Cemetery here in Dallas, Texas. This is where Abraham Zapruder is buried. And quick little known story, Abraham Zapruder had vertigo, and when he filmed this iconic footage that you see time and time again of the assassination, he was being not propped up, but he was being held in place. He was standing on top of a pillar at Dealey Plaza to get a good vantage point, and his secretary, same one that apparently had fussed at him, was holding on to him to make sure he didn't fall over while he filmed the iconic footage. All right, I can't do too much better than this. This is a busy intersection, and you have to pay to park, and really isn't anywhere closer I can get. So I'm going to try to do my best here. But this was where, in 1963, President Kennedy was brought after he was assassinated, and it was about 1973, somewhere around there, that they decided they were going to go ahead and demolish that part of the building where Trauma Room 1 was and renovate the hospital. And as it is, the hospital has to keep up with new and improved technology, and there's a lot of renovation that happens with hospitals over the years, and this has been 50-some years later, so this is it. Now, when they dismantled Trauma Room number 1, there were all sorts of different options for what they were going to do with the equipment that was in the trauma room. And ultimately they decided for the equipment that they could match up by serial number and tiles and that sort of thing. They put them all in boxes. There were some plans to do something with them at a museum. Ended up being put into boxes and taken to storage in Fort Worth. As far as I know, that's where they are today, but if anybody knows, please let me know, because couldn't find anything online that gives any sort of indication. But now the only thing standing in there is a plaque that just says this is where Trauma Room number 1 once stood. So there you go, Parkland Hospital. We're only about half a mile from our Airbnb, by the way. I had no idea. We just found out this morning. Probably could have walked here, but this was Lee Harvey Oswald's boarding house where he rented a small room. But after the assassination, Oswald returned to his room here immediately after shooting President Kennedy. Now, I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories, and I'm not going to divert away from just what appears to be common knowledge. I don't get into all that, but he showed back up here and in a hurry grabbed all his belongings in about 4 minutes and then left here on foot. And I guess he talked to Arlene, who he was renting the room from, who lived here. told him about the assassination. He made no comments, and he left shortly thereafter. So, pretty interesting. As I understand it, it's the same family that still owns it. You can actually take a museum tour. We've got a lot to see today, so we're not going to do that today.
Then he got out of the car, slow motion. He calmly crawled out of this car, and he started around to the front of the car. And just as he got even with the front wheel on the driver's side, this man shot him 3 times.
So this is an interesting place to think that there was so much history, because this is just kind of a residential neighborhood that seems like it got caught up in the middle of something it probably didn't want to be caught up in the middle of. But this is where Oswald shot and killed Officer J.D. Tippett. This is on November 22nd, 1963. At this intersection, Dallas Police Officer J.D. Tippett was murdered by Lee Harvey Oswald 45 minutes after President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dealey Plaza. After the assassination, Oswald fled to his rooming house in Oak Cliff, in a neighborhood where Officer Tippett was assigned. While on patrol and traveling east on 10th Street, having just crossed Patton Street, Tippett stopped Oswald, who was walking on the sidewalk. After a brief conversation with him through the passenger window, Tippett exited his police car, at which time Oswald fired 3 shots across the hood, striking Tippett as he pulled his gun. Oswald then came around the rear of the car and fired a 4th shot. Oswald left the area. Temple Bowley, a citizen, stopped and used Tippett's radio to call for help. Officer Tippett was taken to Methodist Hospital, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. Oswald appeared at Hardy's shoe store shortly after manager Johnny C. Brewer heard a radio broadcast that a police officer had been shot and killed nearby. Brewer followed Oswald to the Texas Theater, where employee Julia Postall called police due to Brewer's suspicion. There, Oswald attempted to shoot arresting officer M.N. McDonald. Tippett, who left behind a wife and 3 children, is buried at Laurel Land Memorial Park. In 1964, he was posthumously awarded the Medal of Valor from the National Police Hall of Fame, the Police Medal of Honor, the Police Cross, and the Citizens Traffic Commission Award of Heroism. Although the intersection of 10th and Patton Streets has changed, Officer Tippett's actions and subsequent murder at this site are remembered for setting into motion a series of events that led directly to Oswald's arrest. Through those trees is the Texas School Book Depository, where Lee Harvey Oswald worked, and the focus is on the 6th floor up there. It's through the trees, not really a good viewpoint of it. But right here is where the motorcade would have gone down, and X is going to mark the spot here. It's where the first shot rang out. Now, if you happen to come down here, just take note of all the traffic here. Like this person that's getting ready to walk out and stand in the X, don't be that guy, right? This is a working road, and walking along a little bit earlier, I almost got hit by people who weren't paying attention. So you can kind of see out near the middle of your screen, right about here, that's where the second X is, in the middle of the street. X marks the spot, and then of course that bridge is where they went under and took JFK to Parkland Hospital. Right here is the famous or infamous grassy knoll. A bunch of conspiracy theories abound there. Again, not going to go into all that sort of stuff, but just kind of cool to be here. Not cool in a negative way, obviously, you know, something very serious took place here, but there's a lot of history here, so let's go see what else we can find. So if you take a look, this is the front of the Texas School Book Depository. And if you go up, that window right there, that window right now is open. There's really no good vantage point to get to it. It's a busy intersection. That is where Lee Harvey Oswald stood. So there's a very famous picture of Oswald after he purchased the rifle that he used in the assassination, or that is said to be used in the assassination. And Oswald sent that to somebody that he admired with a quote that said something like, "Hunter of fascists, ha ha ha." He was very proud of it. Also, apparently, I've been staying at the Airbnb closest to all of these places, and I'm getting ready to show you this one house, this very famous photo that I'll put up here in a second, but it pretty much looks exactly like it did back then. You know, let's just see what I mean. That's the townhome right here, 214, I forget what street we're on, but I'll put the address up there in a little bit. You see that fence in the back? There's a very famous set of stairs. We're gonna go back there in the alleyway and I'll show you what we're talking about. So if we come around this corner, yep, there's the stairs. You can kind of see the backyard here, right there. But there's a very famous photo of Oswald at the bottom of these stairs. Very proud with his rifle. I'll put that photo up here in a second, but this is it. It doesn't look like much has changed. This is right off of an alley. Again, just a couple blocks from our Airbnb. We had no idea, and this is only a few blocks from his boarding house. He lived here with his wife, whom was Russian. And there's a whole background on that, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But this is it. Pretty interesting. So I'm walking up West Neely Street in Dallas. It's day 2. And that house that I took you to last night where the famous photo was taken, it's actually 214 West Neely Street. I can see it from my Airbnb. I just had no idea I was staying in the midst of all this history. But neighborhood's really nice now. Obviously it's been updated. There's an arts district around the corner. Now, a lot of conspiracy theorists feel like the photo was faked. And in the 50 years since it was taken, even Oswald himself said that it was a fake. But even back then, 3-letter agencies said, nope, it's definitely not a fake. But conspiracy theorists point to the lean in the photo and some shadows. But over time, here recently, I don't remember when, some 3D imagers have come in, taken a look at the photo, and they go, no, it's authentic. So that photo was taken by his ex-wife, Marina, who apparently still lives here in Dallas, somewhere just north of here. But, and I'm actually coming right up on the house again. So kind of turn around. It's right there, so we'll come to that here in a second. I'm actually walking to another location where Oswald lived, and I believe it's been torn down, so I'm not exactly sure what we're gonna find. But we're gonna head down the alley next to where that famous photo was taken, and we'll see what's left. Now, Oswald couldn't really keep a job. He moved around a lot, so this is just one place that he lived between 1962 and 1963. And here we are again. Here's that house, 214 West Neely. There's that famous backyard, right there. we're just gonna walk past it, come down this alley to our next location. Now, apparently the owners of this next location, when they bought it, they had no idea what they were buying. They thought they were just buying a place to fix up, sell, rent, whatever they wanted to do to it. And found out about the history of the location later on. So I'll tell you a little bit more about that location once we come up to it, but it's since been demolished. The city said it was in disrepair, had to be demolished whether they wanted to or not. So let's go find that next location. I'm at the corner of Elbis Avenue and Davis Street near the Bishop Arts District. And because I'm not a smart guy, if you'll recall, there was a street sign behind me earlier that actually showed Elbis Street. I passed the street I needed because I was busy talking with you all, you fine folks, and it's important. I wanted to make sure you had all the info that you needed. And also I was enamored with that 214 West Neely Street, which I passed a second time, making a full circle coming back here. But that brings us to our next stop. Oswald lived in a few different places over his tenure in Dallas. One of those being what used to be 604 Elbis Street. Now that building is no longer standing. I'll show you where it was. But he lived in apartment number 2. When the new owners took over several years ago, within the past 20 years, they had no idea what they had. And as soon as they found out, they decided that they were going to sell off bits and pieces of the apartment. And I think somebody got his toilet. That's what I remember. So my mind is full of useless facts, and that's one of them. Somebody got Oswald's toilet. But that building that he lived in from 1962 to 1963 was right there in that vacant lot right there. It was torn down around 2012, 2013. It's still up for sale. If you want to come by and buy it and just say that you built the building or own the land that Oswald once lived on, in, near, around, it can be yours for, I'm sure, a low price. Right there. Now I want to make something clear as we come up to the corner, walking away from where Oswald once lived. If you go up here and to the left, that's where that West Neely apartment is, or townhome, or what? It's a duplex. Let's call it a duplex. That's where that duplex is, right up there on the corner. So if I turn around, there's that vacant lot. Well, I'll let you local yokels know. I know it's Elbeth Street, and I had mentioned Elbeth Street. I misspoke. It happens. Again, I'm not a smart guy. But if you come up here to where this stop sign is, at this corner, and take this left, that's where he lived after he lived at that vacant lot. So if we're looking at where we just came from, when I was just talking to you, I was walking down here. That vacant lot is down to the left. If I pan over here to the right, there's 214 West Neely right there. So here we are, a little further away. 214 West Neely is right there. That lot that we were just at is right to the left. And if you pan over right there, that's where my Airbnb is. So we're on West Jefferson at the intersection of Zang Boulevard, and we walked past this theater the other night and had no idea what it was. And I was thinking it looked pretty dated and why it was still hanging around. But this is the theater that Oswald was arrested in after he shot Officer Tippett.
There is Lee Oswald. He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. There's the man with a gun. It's absolute panic. Absolute panic here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters. The detectives have their guns drawn. Oswald has been shot. There is no question about it. Oswald has been shot. Pandemonium has broken loose here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters.
Lee Harvey Oswald is buried at Rose Hill Memorial Park in Fort Worth, Texas. His body was prepared by Miller Home funeral director Paul Grudy in 1963. Grudy told the gravediggers at Rose Hill Cemetery that the grave they were digging was for an old cowboy named William Bobo. When Grudy ordered flowers for the service, he told the florists to put Bobo on the tag. Grudy picked out a suit for the service and told reporters that it was for Mr. Bobo. There were no mourners or pallbearers for Oswald. Only a few reporters, police and federal agents, and photographers. Even the minister failed to show. Reluctantly, the reporters realized that if they wanted the story, they'd have to bury Oswald themselves. Realizing the competition for the story, one by one, the reporters joined in carrying Oswald. Adjacent to Oswald is Nick Beef. Nick Beef, a comedian, bought the plot next to Oswald in 1975. Then in 1997, erected a headstone. At the time, anyone looking for Oswald wouldn't be given the location by the cemetery, but anyone looking for Nick Beef would be. Eventually, the cemetery caught on. In 1981, Oswald's body was exhumed after speculation that a Russian agent and not Oswald had been buried there. Pointing to dental records and an identifiable scar, a team of pathologists at Baylor University concluded that the body was that of Oswald. Marina Oswald Porter, Oswald's widow, also identified 2 rings she'd placed with Oswald's body.
The balance of power is still on the side of freedom. We are still the keystone and the arch of freedom, and I think we will continue to do as we have done in our past, our duty, and the people of Texas will be in the lead. So I'm glad to come. I'm glad to come to this state, which has played such a significant role in so many efforts in this century. I'm confident, as I look to the future, that our chances for security, our chances for peace, are better than they've been in the past. And the reason is because we're stronger.